the 806. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Hannah. Who else do we have here with us today?
Hey everybody, this is Mick, and guys, I noticed that from episode 1 of our podcast, I've grown about 6 inches. Yeah, I was struggling a little bit with the camera. We are. This is good.
Yeah, we were about to put you in a Tolkien novel. I mean, it was.
Hey, is it because of my height or my furry feet?
And my name is Greg, and I'm excited to be here during the holiday season. This is good.
So we're here at the beginning of a new year, and this is a time of renewal for a lot of people. So do y'all make New Year's resolutions?
Well, I try to every year. Like most Americans, I'd like to lose a little bit of weight at the start of the year, and usually by about January 3rd, I'm off of that resolution. But this year, we do have a strong resolution, and Mean Gene and I are going to do a pilgrimage in Spain in May on the Camino de Santiago.
Which isn't there multiple trips?
There are. We're going the French way.
Whoa, yeah, that's kind of like the original.
And we're going to do it 10 days and about 100 miles. And so in order to do that, we've got to get in shape.
I love that.
And it's not just get in shape, but you've got to get used to walking with about 30 or 40 pounds on your back. So we're going to do a lot of walking.
So 10 days walking every day.
Every day. You're probably walking 10 miles a day.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Is every day kind of the same, or do they change it up?
It changes up a little bit. I mean, one day it may be 8 miles, the next day it may be 13.
Are you walking like you would be in the 806 in Amarillo where it's flat, or is it going to be mountainous?
Our understanding is there's a little more elevation up and down. So as you can see, it's a little easier to walk in Amarillo because it's flat.
You know, that's
what.
what.
Into the wind in Amarillo.
That's true.
That's the thing.
If you're walking against the wind, it's rough. But if you're walking with the wind, oh man, it's pretty nice.
So we've talked about, you kind of work up to it. You can't just all of a sudden start walking 10 miles a day. So Mean Gene and I are we're developing a little bit of a schedule starting January 1. And we'll just, maybe for the first couple weeks, we put in 3 miles.
I love that.
3 miles a day, and then we start doing 5 miles a day, and then we start adding weight to the pack, and I don't know.
All right, so look out, Amarillo. If you see Greg Dow and Jennifer Dow on Bell and Hillside wearing backpacks.
Don't be alarmed.
Don't be alarmed. And if we're speaking Spanish, it's just part of the experience. We're just preparing for it.
Well, is it you speaking Spanish there, or is it French?
Oh, yeah, you're on the French side.
But we're on the French way is what they...
French way.
But you're in Spain the whole time. Now, you can start in France, but
gotcha.
We're on the French way towards...
French way, but in Spain.
Yes.
The only other person I know here in Amarillo that's very familiar with it is Howard Griffin, right? From
we've
First Pres.
We've met with Howard twice.
Yeah. We should get him on the show.
We need
to. Jennifer, we should Jennifer, Greg, and Howard to talk about it.
Assuming our marriage survives this pilgrimage, I'd love to do a podcast when we get back from this.
Man, well, you're talking about resolutions, and I would say, if I'm being completely honest, I haven't done, like, in recent years, a lot of, like, kind of the more traditional sense of resolutions. Hey, I'm going to instill this in my life or take this out of my life, though I'm probably certain I should. But that being said, in recent years, this is kind of around the time in my faith journey where I'm renewing my rule of life.
Okay.
And so I start working on that in December, and then I start re-implementing kind of some of my practices for this coming year. And I'll share those in coming months, what some of those practices are, if we have that opportunity. But so I guess that's a form of kind of a New Year's resolution. But I will say this. I love the spirit of New Year's resolutions. I don't like it when people give it a hard time. I think people should find times in the calendar where they're going to say, I'm going to make some changes in my life. So I am 100% a fan of the New Year's resolution. I think it's a great fad, and we should keep it. And if it's fallen away, we need to bring it back.
Okay, that's a hot take, man.
Here we go.
What are you doing, Hannah?
Well, so I always felt guilt around New Year's resolutions, like you have to have them.
That's that Church of Christ in you.
Yes, it is.
But then I wouldn't do it, so I just quit making New Year's resolutions. But my good friend Gabby, she works here with us. She did a thing last year where she actually had a party. Several of us got together and we did bingo cards for the year. So it gives you, how many squares do you have on there? Free spot in the middle, 24 squares. And you fill it in with things you would like to do. So it could be fun things, it could be serious things, So I did a bingo card for this year, and I've made a bingo, which is exciting. So it takes some of the pressure
Are you
off.
allowed to share any of the BINGOs on your bingo card?
Let's see. So what all did I had so many different things on there. One of them was to finish a quilt. This is a weird thing, but I do it for some of my family members. Okay. And so I just did one of those, just wrapped it up. That was exciting. One was to redo my flower beds. I did not do that. So,
So when you get a bingo, when you do 5 of these things across the bingo card, do you celebrate? What do you do?
I should celebrate.
You should invite us over to celebrate.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I could mark off another one because I had make homemade cinnamon rolls. I did not get that done.
Oh,
So-
no, we can help you.
Yeah, you should
Thank
do
you.
that one, and that would be the celebration of your bingo.
Perfect. I love it.
How can we minister to you?
Yeah. We're selfless. That's part of our resolution.
Yes.
We're thinking about others this year.
Perfect. So what do you think is behind this wish to be better, this desire to make these New Year's resolutions?
Well, I think there's something innate in us, but I want to be careful of that because I recognize and I acknowledge that in my circumstance, who I am, I have opportunities and access to get better. So I realize that there are probably people in different societies and cultures and circumstances that have limitations where, of course, they're probably not thinking about resolutions. They're simply thinking about survival. And so I want to name that. But I do think for those of us who do have opportunities and ways to get better, it becomes part of our DNA. I think it's kind of a little bit of a Western culture thing as well, that somehow your identity is wrapped up in always being better. That's my concern about it, because I don't like that word better so much. So maybe I'm not a fan anymore. No, but I'm pushing back on myself because I do think it's in us. It's part of our culture. We want to get better, and there's something both beautiful about that we should be paying attention to, but I think there's a double-edged sword in that where we should also be careful where it leads us down a path where maybe we are selfish or maybe it becomes more about me rather than everybody else. And so I think there's something beautiful but also dangerous if we're not paying attention.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I wonder if part of it is deep within us is a longing or a desire for something or for something more.
Yeah.
And if that's just part of the human condition, that there's this hope for or this longing for. I don't know. I'd be curious how other cultures address this, like you're talking about. I'm not sure.
It's always interesting to me because I've seen people do this with Lent too sometimes, is they use that as a time to reset. Like we recognize the need for improvement in ourselves. Either maybe it's something I notice about myself that isn't great and I would like to be better at, or, something that looks more like Jesus. I need to make that shift in my life. But it's funny that I think we wait for New Year's, or I've seen people, like I said, with Lent, they wait for a season where, I can give up being selfish for these 40 days or whatever. It's interesting that we tie it to something specific rather than just a continual, re-examining ourselves. And
Yeah, when you're saying that, I do think there are some basic principles about this, kind of going what Greg said and you said. You think about some of the basic steps of a New Year's resolution. There is examination, right? You're going through a process of kind of examining where you are in your life now, and you want to kind of project it into something more meaningful or better, whatever word we want to use. Mattering, I think, is a good word. And I do think we should be paying attention to whenever those seasons are, whether it's resolutions, Lents. And I think we should include those types of things into our calendar life, because it is important for us to be asking hard questions about ourselves, to be introspective, and then to think through about how we can improve whatever that area is. Now, as a Christian, I'm asking, I think, deeper questions than how I can be better. And I think that's what you're talking about. I think the way you're framing it matters more than simply saying, hey, I just want to lose weight. And I actually have no issue with that, because I do think mind, body, soul is all connected to who we are as people. And for some individuals, a healthier lifestyle can contribute to a more meaningful life. And so I do think that's important. But I think we need to pay attention to language in this, because I think better language could help us see the value in a New Year's resolution.
Yeah. So this is it's not exactly a segue. It'll tie back in, but we had Richard Beck here for our Faith Forum here at Central.
Good.
It was wonderful.
Excellent.
If you guys didn't listen to our second episode, Richard Beck was here with us in the room, which was pretty cool. So he talked about how to find meaning in life, and he gave us these 3 things. He talked about story, being part of a bigger story. He talked about our purpose, finding what our purpose is in life. And then the last piece was worth. Where do we find our worth, or where do we matter? So I wonder, thinking about what makes abundant life, those 3 things, story, purpose, and worth, does that tie into this conversation somehow?
Well, I think so. I mean, Dr. Beck was exceptional, and I really appreciated what he had to offer and what he had to share. As I think about the idea of story, boy, we seem like people who are captivated with story. We're storied people. I think it's Elie Wiesel who said, God made man because he loves stories. Yeah. And we are people who are engaged in story all day long, it seems like to me. And if we can find ourselves as a part of a bigger story, a bigger narrative, a more meaningful narrative, being a part of God's story, well, now life brings much more significance, right? I'm a part of something bigger and greater than myself.
You bring that up, and I'm thinking about, I do this a lot, I realize this, but some of our younger generations, and not that this is in competition with one another, but I do see, like, the story that I grew up with and I was brought into is a story of finding meaning and value in your vocation or your career and in the family you build and the house. Some people would call that the American dream. I think it's very beautiful in finding meaning and identity in your career and in your family. But I would say I do think there are different generations or different cultures. I just think there's diversity in this, in which part of the story matters. And so as much as like a career matters to maybe this emerging generation, they're also asking other questions like, is there more to life than just a job? And so I think people have this kind of this want to be a part of a greater story than themselves. And so I would agree. I think story helps capture human imagination. So I don't know. I'm all about joining a better story than my own.
You know, that is another thing that Richard Beck talked about, is that we can get too stuck in our own stories. If we're not paying attention to a bigger story, we're so introspective that we're going back over this cycle of just being stuck inside ourselves. And finding identity outside of myself is critical to being a whole person, I think.
And I will say this one more thing about this, because as I was talking, I was thinking, on the other side, I also think it's important to have shared stories.
You know, the second thing Beck talked about was having a purpose, if you will. And one of the things I thought about as he described that is I thought about my own cancer journey that I've been on for the last couple years. And early on in the cancer journey, decided that the journey was going to be more about me trying to deepen my faith and having a greater compassion and love for others. And I think having a purpose, having something where you're striving for something that's more significant and more meaningful, really made a difference as I was going through that journey. I think for a lot of people that are dealing with whatever it is they have in life, maybe they're just trying to survive. I didn't want to just survive. I think part of Beck's striving for significance or meaning or purpose, I think, is to have a life where you thrive. Yeah. Even in the most difficult circumstances, even when things seem virtually impossible, that the goal isn't just to get by, but there's something there that you're pursuing, that you're striving after. And I know for me, on my cancer journey, that made a big difference on being able to navigate that.
You know, it makes me think about, so the way that we usually set resolutions, like, you know, I want to lose weight. I don't like the way my clothes are fitting. What if we reframe it where it's, I want to live a healthy life so I can give my best self to those around me,
Amen.
to my church, to, you know, I wonder if there are some ways we could make those shifts to bring our resolutions more to what God has in mind for us.
Yeah, and I would even go even slightly a little more on that is, like, think about the implications of whether it's whatever it may be in your resolution, what is happening to you as a person, as a human being. And maybe it leads you to a better confidence or a better sense of worth and value, which then has a domino effect in all the other relationships around you. And imagine that maybe whatever this resolution is, it takes you to essentially a more profound, beautiful understanding of who you are as a person, which leads to all sorts of fruits and characteristics and values that you always want to live up to, right? And that's what Lent also reminds us of. You know, I'm not just taking something out of my life because I realize it's no good, but as you remove that thing and you put something else into you, what are you becoming? You know, that's a good question in this resolution, whatever it may be. What are you becoming? And not just what are you going to look like on the beach, which, you know, no one can look as good as Greg.
That's correct.
But more importantly, like, as a person, what are you becoming?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, I also think about what if we did resolutions that relate more to what we're seeing in the world. So we talked on our episode with Richard Beck about loneliness and how it's a loneliness epidemic, you know. So what if I recognize that in people around me, and my resolution is to invite people to my house, to commit to building community? You know, what are some ways we could impact the world in that way?
Yeah, whatever community you might be a part of, whether you're in school or in a church community or athletics or extracurriculars. Yeah, I mean, I would say make the world a better place. Don't just make you a better person, right? So send a text message out, or once a week commit to doing something like that. Like, just, yeah, make the world a better place.
You know, as you're sharing about this, I think about people's bucket lists, right? People will have these bucket lists, things that they're wanting to do in their life. And a lot of those things are pretty inwardly focused. You know, I want to go to Hawaii before I die, or I want to do whatever those things are. They tend to be more self gratifying, if you will. But I wonder if in this sense, in like a bucket list or something along those lines, if it became more outwardly focused. I want to befriend somebody new this year, somebody that needs a friend, or this is the year I want to sacrifice and I want to give in a more meaningful way. It could be financially, could be in a ministry way, or whatever that might be, where it's something more focused on others and not yourself. And maybe that's where those resolutions, a lot of them, again, for me, it would be, okay, here are ways I want to improve myself, become a better person. What if I were to turn that around and said, hey, some of my resolutions are to love and to care and show compassion for others?
So I love the thought of using this meaningful life and infusing our New Year's resolutions with something like that. So that's our challenge to you. If you're going to approach New Year's resolutions, we have mixed reviews. We like them. We don't like them. We changed our mind, right? We're in it. And this is our third episode, just to remind you guys. Our first one, Mick was really short and dark in the corner.
How am I doing now? Am I doing better?
We're better now. And our second episode was with Dr. Beck, and then this has been our third. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.